What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to a Sunday edition of the Dream Stream here at FTNDaily.com. My name is Zach Graham, aka Kawaisenberg DFS, and one of my good buddies here with me that I haven't seen in a few weeks. A lot of stuff been going on. Baseball started, NFL draft, etc. But Tenacious D Jones alongside me to break down this two-game Sunday slate. We're into round two in the NBA playoffs, but as people file in here, let's catch up a little bit. David, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I considered taking the Trae Young jersey off the back of my wall here. He had a terrible series, but, shit happens. We weren't going to win anyways. We're in the same boat now. Now we just get to observe other teams with your Spurs being eliminated as well in the play-in tournament, right? Yeah. So, but it's all good, man. You were asking me where I've been. When MLB starts, I kind of pivot that way because we have so many guys here on NBA, and the MLB team's been doing phenomenal. We were talking about it. Vlad called 3 home runs last night, and there was I'm not sure. I want to say maybe 6 on the slate, if that. 6, 7, something around there. Not a lot of home runs to be had. So when you nail all 3 of them, you make a lot of money. I cashed my teams with 1 home run because the slate was so terrible last night. But we've been doing good. Ready to talk about the NBA slate. Ready to try and take down this $100,000 one more time.
Yeah, why not? And wouldn't be a better way to start round 2 here. It's one of my favorite times of the playoffs for DFS is game 1s and game 2s, because game 1s, especially once you get into the second round, maybe even into the conference finals, there's a lot of recency bias from the previous series. And then we get into game 2 starting Tuesday and Wednesday, and there's a lot of recency bias from what happened in game 1. So excited to get into it here. And obviously we've got plenty of time, 54 minutes and change until the main slate locks here. First game, Bucks and Celtics. So the Celtics, out of what was, I think, the most intriguing first round matchup coming into the playoffs, ended up being the only sweep in the first round. So you go from KD and Kyrie to the defending champs, obviously Boston, the 2 seed. So they will be hosting game 1 here. They've got home court advantage, and they are 5-point favorites here in game 1, a 217.5 implied total in game 1. And then the second game on our slate, the Warriors and the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, the 2 seed there after closing out the Timberwolves, I believe, on Friday night in game 6, 222 implied total there, with the visiting Warriors 2.5-point road favorites. So I guess before we really dive into these, any first round takeaways for you, surprises, anything that you maybe pick spot on a series or two, I guess outside of the disappointment there in ATL?
The Heat looked better than I expected them to, honestly. I mean, they looked deeper. They were playing the matchups correctly. Atlanta just couldn't score. They defended Trae Young very good, and we didn't have one guy get hot every night like we did in last year. I mean, we got the Kevin or the Hunter game at the end, but you never really had a Boggy or Gallo or Red Velvet game sprinkled in there. So the Heat look good. The Celtics look good. I expected the Nets to at least get a win, but the Celtics are so hot right now. It looks like it's going to be tough to beat them. I do think that they take Milwaukee in the series, and that's not recency bias. I said that after the All-Star break that the team really came together, and I like the way they're playing, although I don't like the Celtics as a franchise that much, but I don't think many people do unless you are a Celtics fan. Memphis looked good. One of my takeaways would be that the Timberwolves actually looked really good. They just got beat by Memphis. So we won't waste time talking about the Timberwolves, but I thought that they played better or a little over their head maybe, or maybe they just played bad during the season. Memphis obviously looked good. I think that the Warriors are rounding into form here, getting over some of the injuries. Steph Curry was playing very, very well, even in limited minutes at some times, posting over 40 DK points in 5 games, and some of those were under, or one of those was under 30 minutes, something like that. So Warriors look good. I think the Warriors and the Celtics probably meet when it's all said and done. I don't know. That's all only takeaways I can come up with at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, that Memphis-Minnesota series was wild. It felt like every single game was a comeback victory for one team or the other. And I think maybe Minnesota the most surprising team out of the 16 to get into the first round in terms of what we all expected when the season started. I don't think anybody had Minnesota making the playoffs, but some injury help with the Clippers, et cetera, Zion not playing, and obviously the Lakers missing the playoffs. So we've kind of got those secondary teams though out of the mix now, and the 8 that we have left. Obviously, we'll have a 2-game slate tomorrow: Sixers, Heat, Mavs, Suns. I guess you got to hope that Joel Embiid, and I know we're looking past today's slate here, but Joel Embiid with that orbital fracture, concussion, out indefinitely, really just got to hope that he can, get out of the concussion protocol, get a mask that allows him to play with that fracture and get out there. Otherwise, I think the Heat might mop the floor there with Philly. And I'm excited to see Luka go up against Phoenix, but we'll refocus in here on today's 2 games. We'll start with the early game, Bucks and Celtics. Let's start with the defending champs here. No Chris Middleton, already ruled out for the duration of this second round series. So that's huge. I mean, in terms of my own personal prediction on this series, David, I would have had Bucks in 7 if they had Middleton. He actually does very well historically against this Boston team. But without Middleton, I've got Celtics in 6, and
Sure.
I mean that means closing out on the road in Milwaukee. So that's not going to be an easy task. But like you said earlier, Boston's been fantastic for the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe in 6, that sounds about right. Maybe they can get it done in 5. I don't know. So the way I'm thinking about it is obviously you just have to stop Giannis, right? Or limit Giannis. There's no stopping Giannis. You limit Giannis. That is the main focal point of the Boston defense, as we know. And then Drew's right behind him. If they can slow those 2 down, which I think that they can, you're not going to get beat by Wes Matthews and Grayson Allen and Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez as good as Brook Lopez has been over his career, coming towards an end. I think he's a Hall of Famer. We can talk about that another time. All you got to do is focus on those 2 guys, slow them down. That's it. Boston has the offense to be able to score on any of these positions with Tatum, with Brown, with Smart, with Robert Williams finally back, even coming off the bench with someone like Tice. Grant Williams has been playing phenomenal, getting 30 minutes a game. And then you have Al Horford, who's healthy enough, ready to go. So Boston should be able to score when they want to here. And if they can slow down the big 2 out of Milwaukee, that's how they're going to win. Obviously, I think everybody clearly knows that. So the big 2 players that you're looking at from this game are going to be Tatum and Giannis. They're the 2 highest priced guys. You have Giannis coming in at like 1.65 fantasy points per minute over the playoffs, but that was against the Chicago Bulls that are an easier matchup. And you have Jason Tatum at 1.23 in his previous matchup. And I made the point that in the article that you also had Robert Williams just right behind him at 1.2 fantasy points per minute. It's essentially the same thing, just not getting as many points. So if I have to choose one of the top 2 guys in Giannis or Tatum, it's a little site dependent because Tatum's cheaper over on DraftKings. But if I'm going with who I think scores the most, it's going to be Giannis because it's going to have to come from Giannis if the Bucks are scoring. Tatum, like I said, great player, but other people can do it for the Celtics as well. And Tatum's going to be tied up with with Giannis, I would imagine, a lot of the time. So I'll take Giannis there if I have to choose one. The way I built my teams today, half of them have both Tatum and Giannis and 2 bench guys, and the other teams have Tatum because Giannis wouldn't fit. But the teams I don't have Giannis, I do have Drew on. As far as value here, I mentioned him a second ago. You have Robert Williams coming in with no minutes restriction is what was announced. Now, what's that look like for Robert Williams? I didn't do a projection. 24 minutes is something I would hope for. I don't think they let him go run 30 or anything like that. Do you have a minutes projection on him?
Yeah, I've got him for 28 minutes today. I actually think, I think that he is being somewhat underprojected minutes wise around the industry, at least from what I saw before we went live. He came back those last, games 3 and 4 in the first round series against Brooklyn. And he was on, I think the first game they said 20 minutes, and the second game they said 24-minute limit. And he got 16 and 14 minutes in those 2 games. There was some foul trouble in there, some matchups, I think, that kept him off the floor, especially in the fourth quarter of game 4. But with him getting back into the starting lineup here, I think it's fairly likely that you're getting full-ish minutes from Robert Williams. He averaged 29 on the season. He averaged 33, almost 33 and a half against this Bucks team in the 3 matchups that Robert Williams played in. So I think my 28-minute projection on Robert Williams, I think, could end up being low at the end of the slate. But again, just kind of building in the fact that we haven't seen him get more than 16 minutes since he returned from that injury. But the fact that he's getting the start, they said no minutes limit, as you mentioned, and he's 5K on this slate with really no good value. He stands out above the rest to me. And if I was running my 20 lineups today, I'm going to eat what I think is kind of increasing chalk here as we work our way towards lock. I would have Robert Williams in every single lineup if I was making 20. If I'm running 150, I could see not leaning into the full lock there and just kind of, mixing up some of your options, but I would still want to be way over the field on Time Lord at 5K. And I think, David, this is going to hurt the upside from a fantasy perspective of Al Horford. I think it's possible Daniel Theis gets a DNP here. Because Grant Williams is somebody they're going to want in there guarding Giannis, especially if the Bucks end up going kind of maybe putting Brook Lopez on the bench as the game goes along, and you see more of just the Giannis Portis front court. I think that could lend itself to more Grant Williams minutes. So I'm really being careful with the rest of the Celtics front court here. And out of those 4 guys I mentioned, it's clearly Time Lord at the top for me. And then I think Grant Williams at 3.8 would be my second option, but it's very close between him and Horford. I'm not touching Daniel Theis today.
Yeah, so you brought up Williams in the games against the Bucks. He either hit or exceeded value in a big way the 3 games that they already played this year, and his price is down from what it was when they played then. So if he gets 28 minutes, I mean, yeah, you have to lock him in there. Grant Williams, I get what you're saying about him guarding Giannis more off the bench with the minutes he was getting in the last series. I do think I don't think he's going out and playing 30 minutes a day or anything. You have Daniel Theis, who has also played well, but in this matchup, I would agree that Grant Williams should be the guy who gets more minutes off the bench, like, for sure. And you wouldn't make a lineup with Theis and Williams, and you wouldn't make a lineup with Grant Williams, and you wouldn't make a lineup with Theis, Robert Williams, and Horford, right. 2 of the 3. And I agree that Theis is the first to go out of there. But I think also he was playing well enough to get some time, a little bit of time. And if it were to get out of hand, he would get some time there too. So all he's got to do is keep playing like he has been playing, but I'm not selling Daniel Theis here. You brought up Al Horford. Robert Williams being back does hurt Al Horford, but Al Horford's price still is not high. Sure. I'm looking at FanDuel right now. It's 5,300, and at the center position, it's pretty tough as far as only center eligible people. And Al Horford is power forward and center on FanDuel. Not a lot of spend up centers today. I don't absolutely hate him or anything, but I would rather have Robert Williams for the salary savings. I would rather Clark. I would probably rather have Jaren Jackson Jr. I'd probably rather have Draymond Green. So. Not selling Al Horford either, but do I have a little bit because of the price? Yeah, I've got a little bit, but I'm with you. Robert Williams is the best salary saver on Boston. Yeah, on Boston, I would say.
Yeah, and it's the thing. Another thing for me about Horford is that it's not necessarily going to be a minutes haircut for him because they're going to want Horford's defense out there. He's going to be the primary defender on Giannis, but on the other side of the court, Giannis is going to be the primary defender on Al Horford. So Horford from a fantasy perspective did not do very well when he was guarded by Giannis this season. And so again, I love the Time Lord so much on this slate. I don't know how much I want to get to Horford because pairing those two, I feel like I'm limiting my upside just a little bit, but I think or looking at the slate from a wider view, all 4 teams on DraftKings at least, Boston is the team that's priced most friendly for us. So to answer Cam's question in the chat, turning to the Discord for a second here, David, because we got a couple questions. Yeah. Cam was asking in 150, would you set a rule for Horford and Time Lord? And I don't think I would. I don't think I would get a ton of Horford in the first place. but it's certainly not something I would want in, like, if I'm running 150, I don't want 50 pairs of Horford and Time Lord. You know what I'm saying? But it's not something that I would exclude from every single lineup in 150.
No, I wouldn't set a rule to have at least one, but I would be over the weight on Robert Williams, and I wouldn't make a rule to not pair them together either. It's a 2-game slate, and I think the prices are both fine on them. So Al Horford can have big games, like, for sure. And if Robert Williams for some reason doesn't get big minutes that we can expect, or big minutes for Robert Williams, then Al Horford, Grant Williams, Daniel Tice, they're all going to benefit from that. So I don't have a rule specifically for that, no.
Yeah. T Panthers pointing out, if you go check the assignments for the officials today, Scott Foster will be present in Boston for game 1. To be honest, I don't know which side that helps or hurts. I think it's just going to enrage the casual fan who's sitting on their couch watching this one today. I don't know what the Scott Foster calls in the Boston-Brooklyn. Wasn't that game 4 that he was there? That first half was just officiated. I mean, it was Scott Foster. It was on brand for Scott Foster and his crew. Now Ricky's asking concerns about Steph, talking Dylan Brooks. Let's finish up on Milwaukee and Boston a few more minutes here, and then we'll get back to that. Now, Ricky, the thing about this Boston team too, and we can start to talk maybe some about the wings, right? The 2 studs, the Jays, Tatum and Jalen. And some of the guards here. The Bucks give up a ton of threes in the context of all 30 teams. So I'm a big fan of Jason Tatum. I had him at a 10 in the rankings. And then when Steelers fan asked a question about Tatum, I kind of realized that, okay, the reason I had him as a 10 in the rankings is he's my favorite spend up on the slate. If I'm going to have one stud in a lineup, I'm running a single entry, it's going to be Jason Tatum. But I don't want to say, like, if you're running 3 lineups that you have to have Tatum in all 3, because I don't think that's how I would play it. He would probably make 2 out of 3 in a 3 max for me. Because there are a lot of other guys, like obviously Giannis on the other side is going to project as the highest scoring player on the slate. I just think it's a little tough to get to Giannis and have, like, saving that 1,600 going down to Tatum on the other side of this game, I think is going to do you well. You can also pay 200 more for John Morant, who's a fine spend up. Steph Curry is off his minutes limit now in that starting lineup for the Warriors. He's 8-9. He's probably my second favorite spend up on this slate. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that. You're going to get Drew Holiday as the primary defender on Jason Tatum, as interesting as that sounds with the size discrepancy there. That's how Milwaukee played this in the regular season. And Drew actually did a better job than you might think on the surface in terms of limiting Jason Tatum. But I also have such immense respect for Jason Tatum's game and how it's improved year over year, really, but especially through the latter half of this season. And then we saw it in the first round. Jason Tatum was the best player in that series. And I will stop short of saying he's the best player in this series, but he's a 1B to Giannis right now. And then Jalen Brown at 7-9, I think could go a little bit overlooked. If you don't have Jason Tatum in the lineup, I really want to get to Jalen Brown, because Jalen Brown's going to see most likely a combination of Wes Matthews, Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton. And I feel like Jalen Brown at the ownership, the price discount, is a very interesting pivot off of Tatum if you're not going to run Tatum. And I think you can pair the 2 together. So that long-winded explanation of how I see those 2 today, David, how do you feel about Tatum and Jalen Brown?
Breaking news: Joel Embiid out for game 1 and game 2 against the Heat. So
okay, could return as soon as game 3 though. So that's great news.
They might only. I mean, Heat should win that anyways. They're a better team. All right. So, as far as Tatum, I mean, you talked about that well. Yeah, he's in a good spot. I agree that Giannis is going to be the highest scoring player, but I agree also that he's tough to fit into build. So if you're trying to do like a Giannis, a Tatum, and a Brown, if you're trying to get one of the Golden State guards, which I am, if you want to get Clark or Jackson, which I am, then you're forced to use 2 or 3 bench guys if you're using Tatum and Giannis. It's very, very difficult to do. So I like Tatum's price better, but Giannis I have as the highest scoring guy. I'm going to stick with that. You have that too. If I was building one team, I'd probably put Giannis in it over Tatum. Giannis's rostership is going to be lower than Tatum because of the price, and you just have to find a way to do it. And I do have a salary saver or two on the next game that I like that you might not be thinking about, guys coming off the bench. So we'll talk about that as well. Okay. Let's see, anyone else here that I'm interested in or like gotta have. I mean, I have either Drew or Giannis on every team as well. So the teams I couldn't get Giannis, I do have Drew, and no, there's no problem with pairing those together. Some of the cheap guys I've seen popping up in the Discord, like the Wes Matthews, Grayson Allen's, Pat Connaughton type people. Not real interested, honestly. Like Wes Matthews, there's no way I'm playing him again. He got 3 or 4 steals or something last game and still didn't make the optimal, at least over on FanDuel. I'm not playing Wes Matthews. Grayson Allen, I think the price is too high now. Don't have a lot of him either. Pat Connaughton, don't have a lot of him either. And I certainly wouldn't have more than one of those guys. There's other guards. Like I would rather have Tyus Jones than Wes Matthews, than Grayson Allen, than or Pat Connaughton. So not a ton of interest there. Boston's going to be good at defending them. However, they're going to be focused more, like I said, on Giannis and on Drew. So it might leave those guys open for more shots. They just have to hit them. I don't have a lot of confidence there. Other guys I might be interested in. I mean, I don't have like a target on Bobby Portis. He's going to be starting again if you land on Brook Lopez, kind of the same thing. I wouldn't probably play them both in the same lineup. No one else here like I really have to have. Robert Williams is the main guy. One of Giannis or Tatum. If you don't have Giannis, then you're playing Drew Holiday. If you don't have Tatum, then you're playing Jalen Brown. But I also think maybe we should talk about Marcus Smart. Because Marcus Smart's price is pretty inexpensive today. 6,300 over on FanDuel. We know he's going to get the big minutes. They're not giving Derek White a ton of time off the bench, really. And if you've got Drew over on well, do you think who's going to – Marcus Smart would be covering Drew, I would think, when Drew's on offense. But who's going to be covering Marcus Smart when Boston is on offense if you have Drew over on Tatum?
Yeah, he's going to catch some Wes Matthews, some, Pat C off the bench, Grayson Allen off the bench. I think Marcus Smart is a very, very solid play today, both from a floor and then, like, again, a ceiling perspective. Marcus Smart can go out there and shoot 10 threes and make 4 or 5 against this Bucks team. And if he's out there 36, 38 minutes, we know he can pick up multiple stocks. The guy gets on the boards. He's going to be distributing. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Marcus Smart is a very strong play today in that mid-range. 6'2" on DraftKings. I think you said 6'3" over there on FanDuel. To kind of finish up the Milwaukee side, I don't think I differ too much from you there, right? Like Giannis is Giannis. If you can fit him in comfortably, do it. I'm all for it. He projects as the highest scoring player on the slate. It's kind of like, I guess, lack of a better term, like this like push and pull for me with Drew Holiday and where I fall on him. Like with no Chris Middleton, he's going to get the big usage increase here, right? Like 15 games that, 12 games in the regular season that Chris Middleton did not play, where Drew was in. Drew had a almost 6.5% usage boost, over 30% usage. His assist percentage was over 35%. And he's 8-2 on this slate and not picking up a ton of ownership. He's going to have to do a lot for this team. It's him and Giannis are going to have the majority of the usage, the offensive responsibility, and really the defensive responsibility on the other end. But Drew's getting the steady diet of Marcus Smart, right? It's the defensive player of the year. He's going to see Tatum. He's going to see Jalen Brown, who are great defenders in their own right. So I can't just jump all over Drew Holiday today, but I'm absolutely fine with getting there. I think he's very strong, especially from a floor perspective at 8-2 on DraftKings. We had a lot of questions about Bobby Portis in the Discord over the last half hour. So just to, for a minute or two here, let's dive a little bit deeper into Portis. Just over a fantasy point per minute against this Celtics front court in the 4 meetings this season. Obviously starting out there, the Bucks keeping this big lineup. I thought there was potential for them to put Portis to the bench and start Pat Connaughton today. but we did see them confirm Bobby Portis will continue to get the start. So power forward eligible here on DraftKings, 6'4". I think he's a fine play. I would rather spend up the $1,100 more on DraftKings for Bobby Portis over a guy like Brook Lopez. And again, you're getting that power forward eligibility on Bobby Portis. Do the prices on FanDuel make you think about this front court, especially Portis and Brook Lopez, any different than the pricing on DraftKings?
So, yes, I think so. So when I'm looking at the forward position, it is relatively deep. It's the deepest position today on the slate. And you also have Portis sandwiched between Draymond Green, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Brandon Clark. All three I would prefer over Bobby Portis over on FanDuel. It feels like a time you have to spend up at point guard. Ja Morant, Curry, Holiday kind of ends there. Then you have Marcus Smart, Jordan Poole, Tyus Jones, Derek White are like the only ones you consider at point guard. Shooting guard, it's about like the same names I rattled off, include Jalen Brown, Desmond Bane, and Klay Thompson, and it gets kind of thin towards the bottom. So I bring that up to say, like, I don't really need a mid-range price Bobby Portis when I've got a Robert Williams that's super cheap down there. I've got a Brandon Clark and a Jaren Jackson and an Al Horford I could go to that's cheaper than Bobby Portis. I prefer Portis when there's no Brook Lopez in there and when they're not going up against the Celtics. You read off the stat about his points per minute against the Celtics. That doesn't really jump off the board at me. So if I've got to toss one of those guys away in Green, Jackson, or Clark, it's Portis, but it's a 2-game slate. Like, I hate hedging out like that, but clearly he's got some upside. But I don't think he's got as much upside as he did against the Chicago Bulls, and he wasn't exactly like lighting the world on fire over there every game. So if I got to cut one, it's probably going to be Bobby Portis.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you here, like, and especially on DraftKings here at the forward position, right? Portis 6'4", it's fine. Like, he's a very solid play for the price. I'd rather spend $200 more for Draymond Green in this second game. I'd rather spend $500 less for Jaren Jackson Jr. and take the chance that he stays out of foul trouble again and puts up another big fantasy game at the price. So, yeah, I think let's go ahead and move on here. We're under half an hour until lock. We'll go to this second game. We can always circle back for any other questions. And David, before we went live, it was pouring rain outside, so I had my windows open, and now the sun is beaming down. So my lighting, which is average at best on a regular day, is even worse right now. As we go into this second game, we'll finish with and Gellner saying, "Can I roster Scott Foster today?" And Doug asks, "How does Scott keep his job?" Because he's mobbed up, Doug. Let's go into this second game. We can dive into the the NBA officiating and how dirty they may or may not be later. Second game here, again, we talked about off the top. The Dubs are 2.5-point road favorites here, 222 implied total in this one. Warriors obviously took care of the Nuggets. Nikola Jokic gave his best efforts, and a shout out to Aaron Gordon. I thought Aaron Gordon was he played admirably. I'll say that
Sure.
in an effort that was pretty much futile from the start. Price wise on DraftKings in this second game, Ja Morant 9.6 up top, Steph Curry 8.9 with no minutes limit. Him back in that starting lineup. It's just too cheap on Steph Curry. I prefer to get to Steph over Ja Morant in this matchup. Ja Morant going to see a lot of Andrew Wiggins, Gary Payton II, and didn't do great against those two specifically when he was matched up against them, but Ja found a lot of success when they were able to get switches and he attacked guys like Kevon Looney, even a little bit of Draymond Green, when he got outside of the primary matchup that the Warriors wanted to stick on Ja Morant, he had more success. So I think we're going to see a lot of that Grizzlies hunting switches for Ja. Desmond Bane, I think, going to have a few, primarily some better looks than Ja Morant in this series, at least to start, because he's probably going to catch a lot of Steph and Jordan Poole defense. Obviously, Klay Thompson, maybe not the defender he used to be, but certainly going to be tougher than those two guards that I mentioned. When you're looking at the guys up top in this game, we can talk about both teams at the same time, I guess, since we've got questions coming in on both. Ja Morant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Desmond Bane, Jordan Poole. who really sticks out to you? I know obviously Steph may be in a tier of his own fantasy-wise compared to those other guys, but how are you looking at those guys up top for
I
this
mean, to
game?
answer the question, what jumps out to me, not that I think that they're going to score the most points, would be Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins because the prices are still pretty cheap, right?
Yeah.
We don't have news if Poole's going to start again, do we?
I don't think we have seen that yet. If I missed it, somebody hit us in the chat. I think they will. I think they will stick with that lineup because Steven Adams is still out in the health and safety protocols.
Yeah.
But we'll see, and we won't get that news before lock. So if anybody's seen anything out there on Twitter or anywhere else indicating what the Warriors are going to do with their starting five tonight, definitely tag us in the chat. But sorry, go ahead, David. You were talking about these guys.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Wiggins and Klay Thompson, I think they're both just still too cheap. Thompson's 6,500 on FanDuel. Wiggins is 6,000. You know they're going to play starters minutes if the game stays close. I think the Warriors win this one, but they're simply too cheap. I know you've got Steph playing, back to normal minutes. You've got Poole in there too, who you could argue is too cheap, and you could overreact as well and say which might not be an overreaction, but that, Curry's back there getting full minutes. He's starting next to the other guys that can shoot the ball like Klay. It's going to hurt his production, but the price is still decent, I guess, on Poole, and he does have the upside we've seen if it's a Poole game. But I would prefer Klay Thompson over him. I'd probably prefer Wiggins, and I definitely prefer Steph. So you want to get either Klay, Wiggins, or Steph in your lineup. If I had to choose one, it's probably Klay for salary savings. If I'm looking for ceiling, it's going to be Steph Curry for sure, who's priced cheaper than Ja Morant, which I think is ridiculous. I do not have much Ja Morant this game. I just don't. I have very, very little. I don't even think I got to 10% of them because I'd rather pay up at the other positions, and I feel pretty confident with the value of the guards. Let's not forget, Ja Morant he had he was putting up big numbers last series, but he was playing the Timberwolves. Like the Timberwolves are who you attack really with anybody. Their defense not good. And you can even look at the last game. Like Ja didn't have a good game. He had a couple games where he didn't hit value. Then he had some games where he absolutely blew up. This is a far more difficult matchup for him. Now, if you look at when the Warriors are all completely healthy, which was not a lot of the time this season, they were elite at defending guards. And you know that you have to zone in and take Ja Morant out as much as you can, which is what I assume that they are going to try and do. Now, look, I'm not saying they're going to show up and be like one of the best guard defending teams like they were in the first 2 months of the season, but they are healthy and they're going to make it more difficult on Ja. And again, it's not the Timberwolves. So I do not have much of Ja at all. And I also think Bane's a little bit overpriced, but he is also going to get huge minutes. So if I have to choose Bane or Ja today, I'm probably going to go with Bane just because the price is cheaper. They're going to play the same minutes. And we've seen Bane stick right up there with Ja as far as scoring. He doesn't have as high a ceiling. He hasn't gone out and dropped 55 in the playoffs, but I don't think Ja is going to do that once against the Warriors this time. So I'll take Bane over Ja, and then Thompson for value on the Warriors for the guards. Steph being the highest scoring one, I would think, because his price is too cheap. Like him more on DraftKings than FanDuel.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in lockstep there on Desmond Bane, and I think that goes for both sites, right? You're almost getting a 3K, I think 2.7K discount on Desmond Bane coming down from Ja Morant there on DraftKings. I saw Ja 10K flat over there on FanDuel. But those aren't the only guards in this lineup, right? Dillon Brooks in there, and Dillon Brooks is going to be tasked with guarding Steph Curry. And people obviously were frustrated with the Jaren Jackson Jr. foul trouble last series, which kind of overshadowed Dillon Brooks and his foul trouble. He's not as foul prone as somebody like Triple J, but Dillon Brooks, known to be pretty handsy, a very physical defender, did foul out in that game 6 in his 32 minutes. But for me, David, it's the guard forward eligibility. He's 5'8" on DraftKings, and this is a guy who if he gets 32 plus minutes, which you should be projecting him for, he can take 20 shots in a game. He might go 3 for 20, but if he hits 10 for 20 at 5'8" and he's going to be out there 30 plus minutes, he can pick up some stocks. He can pick up some other peripheral stats. And I think he's a very interesting piece, especially in MME builds with that guard forward eligibility on DraftKings. But in that price range, he's $100 cheaper than Triple J, who we talked about earlier. I was happy that I think that was kind of the one thing I threw into chat before lock on the showdown slate on Friday. And he avoided fouls for the most part, got out there for 34 minutes, by far his high in that first round series, and gave you 45.5 DK points. Kind of a similar story here for Triple J. In his time against this team, even with Draymond in the lineup, Triple J was really productive from a fantasy standpoint. But again, is he going to be able to keep his hands to himself and stay on the court? That's kind of the story every game here for Jaren Jackson Jr. But the price with that power forward eligibility, 5'9", the upside that he has, I just can't, I'm going to take that chance, and I'm going to ride with some significant volume of Triple J in an MME build if I was playing today. How do you feel about those two guys in that high 5K price range, Brooks and Triple J?
You nailed it pretty good. You do worry about the foul trouble some, but we know if Jaren Jackson Jr. can stay in, he's got a higher ceiling than Brooks. Brooks hasn't been putting up a ton of stats across the board in what was a way easier matchup last time, but the price has gone down. I think he's just okay. I just don't really like what I've seen out of him offensively lately. So you land on him a lot because of the price, but it's not someone I'm just dying to have. But then you can make the same argument. The price is cheap enough to get to him. I don't think it's as good of a matchup as we had last series for him. Jackson, you need him to stay out of foul trouble. As far as Jackson and Brandon Clark, you typically wouldn't want them both on the same lineup, but it's a 2-game slate and it's fine. And we saw the last game that they both had good games. Aside from that, neither of them had a good game, the same game for any other game in the playoff series. But you have what appears to be Clark getting more minutes, no matter if Jackson's in foul trouble or not. And when a guy's playing that well, I think you just run him out there and let him play, find a way to get him in, especially no Steven Adams down there to compete for more big man minutes. So if I'm ranking them, it's going to be probably Clark, Jackson, Dylan Brooks in that order. I probably limit it to 2 of the 3 if you're doing MME stuff. I don't particularly love the matchup for Brooks, but I know he's cheap enough. One guy I wanted to talk about was Tyus Jones a little bit, because you have to find some salary savings on this slate. Tyus Jones is cheap enough. If he can get 20 minutes and I'm fading Ja, which I am to a large extent, it would make sense that Tyus Jones could come in, even though the minutes won't be. It's not like I'm fading Ja because I don't think the minutes will be there. I know the minutes will be there, but I'm hopeful that Tyus can, do something with the 20 minutes he gets off the bench at 4,300. I think if you're taking one guy off the bench in either of these 2 games, I think Tyus Jones would be my preferred option, unless someone's just slipping my mind right now. But for the salary, I think Tyus Jones would be my preferred option because he's a guy that I think is going to get 20 minutes off the bench, and there's not a lot of other guys like that, unless you're talking about a Brandon Clark if he's coming off the bench.
Sure.
But yeah, I consider him a starter. I mean, that's starter's minutes. So
sure. And I think Brandon Clark is just fine. Projects really well. I don't know if we see the same 37, 33 minutes that we saw in games 5 and 6 of that last series. It's a fine matchup for him. He's still going to project for a little over a fantasy point per minute on DraftKings. I just think there's so many different ways that Taylor Jenkins can go with his rotation here, right? We saw DeAnthony Melton fall completely out of that rotation as that first round series went along. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a turn or 2 here. And maybe if not in game 1, then I think in this series we do see some DeAnthony Melton for some of his scoring prowess in there. Again, he's 3K flat. If you wanted to take a couple shots in 150 or even in 20 max lineups, I'm fine taking a shot or 2 on DeAnthony Melton. We do need to get that Zaire Williams news, because if Zaire Williams is out again with that knee injury, then we're going to see John Conchar get some minutes as well. Again, not really sitting here campaigning to put John Conchar into your lineups, but just to be aware that those guys at 3K could get some time here. And in 150, again, if Zaire Williams is out and you had 2 or 3 shares of John Conchar at 3K, I'm not going to call you crazy, because it's going to allow you to get to different builds where the vast majority of the field is not taking anybody in that 3K flat range tonight. But I all that, I'm not trying to say that Brandon Clark is a bad play by any means. But I did just hear an interesting sound. So what could that be? Oh, hey, Edward.
Well, hi, boys. How you doing?
Doing well, man. How are you?
I'm all right. I just walked in the house, and it's day one of the series, and I'm booting everything up. But I had some plans, but I just got back and thought maybe I could be of some use. So, how's it going this morning?
Doing good, man. We talked for about 25 minutes on that first game, Bucks and Celtics. Kind of in the midst of things here, with about 15 minutes to go until lock on Warriors and Grizzlies. A lot of love for the Time Lord getting the start there. They said no minutes limit, although the minutes limit hasn't meant much when they said, the first game back 20, he plays 16, 24, he plays 14, etc. But yeah, we talked through that first matchup, some of the Drew guarding Tatum and things of that nature. We've talked through Ja, seeing some Andrew Wiggins, Gary Payton. Haven't quite got to Jonathan Kuminga, who I do want to touch on for a minute or two before lock. But that's kind of a wide view of where we're at here. I know we've got a lot of questions built up in chat, so I'm going to turn to the chat and answer as many of those as I can.
Okay. Were there any major sources of contention?
I don't think so. We're both, David, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the biggest thing that I can remember that we somewhat disagreed on is I would play Jason Tatum over Giannis, just because I think you can make a better lineup today, taking that $1,600 savings. David prefers Giannis, and certainly preferring the guy who projects to score the most fantasy points on the slate. Not a wild take there.
Yeah, I'm curious about where you guys land on Ja and Steph. Is something I want to get to. I do have Tatum and Giannis as roughly equally as productive, so I do think that being hedging between the two of them, I think Tatum does end up higher owned if that factors into anyone's calculus there. I think he's probably a little over half, if I had to guess. He's going to be heavily owned. Again, I've been out of the house for 4 hours, but not much has changed in those 4 hours, I don't think.
No.
So
we did have a question. Have you seen anything on Memphis starting lineups, Warriors starting lineups? Any potential? Like, are they going to keep Dre at the 5? Is Looney going to get back in there because there's no Steven Adams on the other side? We had some question about that.
I think that I have not seen anything definitive as of when I got home, which was about 4 o'clock last night. I've been up for about 24 hours because my daughter had junior prom last night. And it was the whole thing. So all good. But I was reading and recording and watching stuff much through the night, and I didn't have anything definitive. I think they stick with the PTSD and Draymond at the 5 type dealio. I would be kind of surprised if they change that, especially in this spot. I don't think they get forced big. I think both teams will be a little more inclined towards the small hair. And I do like Brandon Clark. I think I heard something about that as I was sitting in the waiting room or something. I do think he continues to get time. I have him for 32 minutes. So I think it's just fine to get there. He's now priced at an appropriate level where he doesn't project particularly brilliantly, but I do think he's the guy who's starting to pick up that extra time in this spot.
I think you brought up Ja and Steph, and I think that's important. Do you want to expand on your thoughts on those real quick?
Well, I have them at about the same ownership, and I have them at similar. Like, I slightly prefer Steph Curry because I have Ja producing one more fantasy point for him for, I think it's $700 more expensive today. So I slightly prefer Steph, but it was something I was thinking about a lot of the day, where I think Steph, I have him projected for almost the exact same fantasy points. I think there's a point or 3/4 of a point differential between them. But due to the value on Steph and the matchup, I slightly prefer. I would go with Steph Curry over Ja Morant, and I was just curious if that was the consensus. I don't have a great sense of ownership. I think they're both within 5 points of about 20. So I'm sort of ambivalent on them. A lot of people are going to get to Drew as well, and I think Drew will continue to be under-owned until he has a good game. Now, he missed the spots to do it in. Now he's in a very, very difficult spot. So I'm less, I would like to get some more games back out of round one there, because I really think Drew managed to just get very low results several times in a row, where I really think on average he would have been doing much, much better. Some sites have Steph like 8 points lower than Ja. Well, it's going to come into minutes is a weird thing. I have Steph Curry for 37.5 minutes. I suspect that is a little higher than the consensus, although maybe they're massively over projecting. I mean, what do you guys have for production for these two guys? Because I do have Ja very slightly higher than Steph in production, but not enough so to justify even 700.
That's how I feel about it too. I mean, the price tag on Ja is just too much, in my opinion. If you're trying to build around Ja, that means you're not using Giannis and Tatum probably as much as you should. And then you've got other solid point guards, in my opinion, right there, albeit not a lot of point guards, but you still got, your Curry, you still got your Drew, you still got your Smart, who I think's underpriced. You still got Clay, who's underpriced too. So I'm with you there.
So I think, so I would rather end up with Curry today. And again, I like Ja as a play, but like Curry has a better matchup going against that backcourt than Ja does across the ball going against this Warriors team. Ownership is going to be roughly similar. So anyhow, I would start. Ja's not 100% healthy, which I think plays into this a little bit here. He's fine, but he was noticeably slow a few times for me in the last series, so I'm not sure he's 100%. I guess it could be 100%. He's young, he's bouncy, but I have that Zion concern of you get really, really high in the air, and that's a little tricky for your body when you come down. I am concerned about how much time we get out of Brook Lopez. I think there is a chance this ends up trending on the smaller side. Mm-hmm. Bob Williams starting is ambivalent for him, because there are ways in which they can need him to man that up, but there's definitely possibilities. It's a bad matchup. Bob Williams' rim protection is elite at this point. I mean, I picked Boston in 6. Start there.
Yep. Same.
What do you guys have for the series?
I have Boston 6.
Okay. Yep. Don't disagree.
So this leads everyone to think that Milwaukee's playing from behind a little more. That makes it more likely that time turns into little bits more Pat Connaughton, Grayson Allen. There's just other ways they can go. You're already are playing several other bigs out there. So I think Brolo is the guy I'm a little worried takes the haircut here. So he's obviously still very usable in GPPs. The price is just fine. If he gets there, it's going to be bombing threes, but it's a really fairly difficult matchup for everyone on this team. The guy I think is most likely to end up in the advantageous GPP spot here is actually Bobby Portis. That doesn't mean you can't play Drew Holiday, who has been under-owned, and I expect to still produce very well and still ranks. If I look at my top plays on the whole slate, Drew Holiday is currently sitting at number 5. I like Drew Holiday just plenty, and he should be 30% owned. He's going to be 16% owned or 18% owned, and I like Drew Holiday. Especially, I mean, there's a lot of competition for, we were just talking about Ja and Steph, and Drew isn't that cheap, but someone has to get there. For this,
here's a question because we discussed Portis kind of 5 minutes before you got here.
Okay.
Would you rather Portis or Draymond Green for 200 more on DraftKings? Because I'm on the Draymond side of that.
I like them both.
Sure.
I would like Portis for what I think will be lower ownership in this particular spot, and it allows you to get some exposure to that first game without paying up for guys that are in really difficult spots. This is a below average spot for setting aside minutes, playoff, all that other stuff. Just as far as the matchups go, you're dealing with Marcus Smart. You're dealing with Al Horford, who is I was correcting. I have a friend of mine who I play basketball with on Facebook who is like, man, Boston has nobody to deal with Giannis. He's going to eat in this matchup. I'm like, he may eat in this matchup. They're going to play him all the minutes they need to, and they're missing Middleton, and there's plenty of food to eat. He may eat, but Boston has a number of guys who are good in this matchup. Bob Williams is good in this matchup. Grant Williams isn't horrible. Al Horford is there for this matchup. Like, the percentage reason that Al Horford is in Boston is very significant because Giannis exists. Very similar to Marc Gasol ending up in Toronto. Marc Gasol was in Toronto to guard Joel Embiid. Literally, they got him in January and we're like, we don't care what you do for 4 months. But as we get towards the summer, you're going to have to guard Joel Embiid for 2 to 7 games, and it worked perfectly. The existence of Giannis in the Eastern Conference is a not irrelevant part of the reason that Al found his way back to Boston. So it's, again, I have Giannis. I don't know what everyone's production is. I have Giannis right now for 39.5 minutes and 62.25 fantasy points. I suspect everyone is within a few percentage of that. And that's just great. And again, that's an average. So 70 here wouldn't shock me whatsoever in that much time. But yeah, there is as far as good value plays go. I got to go down pretty far. Gary Payton II, I think my top rating value play right now, and I don't feel great about it. Yeah. What do you guys got?
I was selfishly getting at, just to take us back just a touch here. On the 1-game winning streak here, shout out Kobe White.
Jesus.
Would you Portis Draymond straight up for a board bet today?
Brag on that. Would I Portis Draymond for a board bet today? Check my actual projection numbers for them. They're going to be pretty close. I have Draymond projected for more than Bobby Portis. So I have Draymond projected for 33.75 fantasy points. I have Bobby Portis projected for 32.25 fantasy points. So I have him for a fantasy point and a half more. So
I'll give you a point.
Yeah, okay, I'll do it with a point. Sure, give me a point. I'll take Bobby Portis on a point.
Put it on the board. All right.
And I just think the ownership is less. They're both power forward center eligible. They're both mid sixes. I think Draymond, like you said, is 200 more. I think Draymond's higher owned by 10-12%. And sort of more the reason I like getting to Portis is Giannis obviously costs a buttload. Drew Holiday, not the best matchup, hasn't performed yet. I'd probably rather play Drew than Giannis in my first day here. Absolutely nothing wrong with playing Giannis, but it lets me spend up and get exposure to a guy on this Bucks team, who isn't that owned, will be less owned than each of those other two guys and has a real upside. So I don't know if I would put Drew or Portis in my first lineup, but that would be the first guys I would get to before I got to Giannis. I would play a lot of Giannis. I suspect I would have 35%, and I suspect that would be a little bit under the field. Boston, again, I have Tatum as the best play on Boston pretty significantly. No minutes limit on Brown isn't the best thing on him. The more limited he is, the better it is. But Bob being back limits Horford's offensive usefulness. Smart is always a movable feast. Brown not being 100%, I don't think. So I think there is just a real chance that you still end up with. There's still plenty of ceiling behind $9,400 Jason Tatum. Like, he is. My first lineup probably has Portis or Holiday and Tatum as opposed to Giannis and whatever. But that's just sort of, I think you're getting a little lower on the ownership there, and Giannis isn't really making me pay until he hits 70 is where I think I'm worried. If Giannis gets like 65, I think I'm probably fine. I'm just guessing. It's not good, but the value is pretty shit, as we discussed. And that's about it. You don't want Tyus with him coming off the bench. I don't think they get back to Derek White, although the price on Derek White has come to the point where I think he ends up being relevant at some point in your DFS lineups this series. Like, he was at 51. That was really hard to get to. But a really strong defender who can find some time out there. I think Derek White will have a role in this series as this goes. And Grant Williams is a very usable piece of value. I have 27 minutes and 18 fantasy points. Not a great matchup for him either, but 3,800. The rest of the value is garbage. Certainly a guy we can end up getting to. And yeah, Milwaukee, after those top three guys, I mean, Giannis is the best play on the team, then Drew, then a while, and then you get into Brook Lopez, who you can certainly play, Bobby Portis, who I would rather play, but it's $1,100 difference between those two guys. I mean, that's real money you're talking about there. Grayson Allen will continue to have a real role here. And then there's those next three guys where, like, we do not want to underestimate how good Boston's defense has been. Like, they've been phenomenal in the second half of the year, especially. And getting Bob back for them, there's no reason to think that this isn't going to be a really difficult matchup. Now, Milwaukee is really going to try and get out and run. Like, that is going to be their way to try to get this done. But Yeah, I think Grayson Allen is very possibly on the court at the end of the game in the fourth quarter because either Brook Lopez or Wesley Matthews has sat down.
Mm-hmm.
So,
question.
I wanted to throw this to you, David. If you're seeing that Clay versus Smart on FanDuel.
I think that's pretty tough, actually, because they're both underpriced in my opinion, and I like them both, and I have no problem playing both. But if you're having to choose one, Smart or Clay, I mean, you've got Smart at is he shooting guard too, or is he just point guard?
Point guard only on DraftKings. Pardon me.
Yeah, FanDuel. I believe they're both shooting guard. Or no?
Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
On FanDuel, shooting guard and point guard, and on FanDuel, Clay is just shooting guard eligible.
Yeah.
I have Marcus Smart projected for more fantasy points than Clay for $1,000 less, just raw. You can put that one on the board if you want to, by the way.
I like Smart a lot.
Yeah, talk about how many. It's very close, but I think I have him for legitimately a fantasy point creator.
I think I would agree with Smart over Clay there as well. On FanDuel, it's a little bit different. But at the same time, even though it's being different, you have a little more depth at the shooting guard position. On point guard, you don't. So I think I have to go Smart there as well.
Our buddy Alex Blickle chiming in here asking, he asked me, but I'll open it up to you two as well. Marcus Smart versus Brandon Clark. I would rather Marcus Smart on this slate.
Yeah, I don't have the best sense of ownership because unfortunately I was out working this morning. So that's a lot of the time that I used to come in on that. I have them as roughly commensurate plays. I have them a quarter of a fantasy point different in production. So it's how much they end up being owned. I think with the Clark pressure at that position is slightly greater because Smart's not point guard only. Jeez, that's right. I'm fairly ambivalent on that. They project almost identically, and I think I will posit that Brandon Clark actually gets slightly higher owned. I'm not sure that's right though, but I'm gonna guess if I had to guess right now that Clark. I don't know what we have, but I would think Clark slightly higher.
What we do have is the main slate locked here. So we appreciate everybody who stuck with us through the last hour. Unless we have to scurry off, I think we can kind of take 10, 15 minutes and continue
talk about the
to
second
talk
game
here.
a little more.
Yeah.
I'm going to scurry off. I had a hard out at 1:00. I've got baby stuff to do. So enjoy the game. Y'all talk about it for the next 15 minutes, whatever you want to do, but I'm out of here.
Good to see you, D. Jones.
Yeah. See you, David. Appreciate you, sir. All right. And Josh saying I appreciate the decorum here. Josh waiting until lock to ask me about the Steelers draft. To be honest, I said my thoughts on them drafting a quarterback the other day in Discord. It's fine. I don't think I saw an offensive lineman in their draft picks. So little concerned there, but it was okay, Josh.
I'm not that familiar. How is their line really bad right now?
It was really bad last year. It didn't help that you had a quarterback that can't really jog without falling on his face and had a noodle arm. That didn't help either. But they weren't great. Alex put in the call this morning for a Draymond triple double. I like that. I think I put in the call for him in game 5 to get one. Didn't quite get there. Only 2 rebounds in that game, which was kind of surprising to me in 36 minutes of Draymond. But in that series with him guarding Jokic, he was completely just boxing out Jokic and letting the other 4 guys go clean it up.
Yeah.
So anyways, I digress. Golden State, Memphis today. I guess you start with Draymond since Alex wanted to talk his triple double call. I like him a lot. Obviously, we got the board bet up there, 6-6. I guess how do you think he deals with Triple J, and if they start that same 5 on both sides, where Tillman's out there to start? Like, how do we see that kind of shaking out?
Yeah, he's so in the PTSD lineup, he's actually getting a lot of touches. He's actually more active. Like I'm encouraged to see him there. He's not going to have to deal with foul trouble issues because he's just not dealing with Jokic or anything near that. it's a really good spot for Draymond. It's a better spot for Draymond than the Nuggets, which was a pretty great spot. But they play fast. The Grizzlies turn over the ball a fair amount, and he's just getting more potential assists, doing a ton of stuff in the front court for this team with the lineups that they're rolling out right now. So I don't think you get a lot of Looney, and specifically, like, I got the impression from one of the Steve Kerr press conferences I was either listening to or reading the transcript of, where like he basically gave me the sense that he had just talked to Looney and said, you know, we will see who they play and see how much you play. But I got the impression that he had just come from a chat where he was literally like, look, you may not be out there a hell of a lot, because he said, like, it just made it sound like I just talked to him and the guy is the ultimate professional. He's whatever you need, coach. And I just love that out of the guy. It's such a quality guy. So, like, I think the guy you get tasked up here is I'm blanking. Gary Payton II, I think, ends up getting more of the bench time than Otto Porter Jr. I think he takes some of Kevon Looney time. I think you get very little Jonathan Kuminga, who you mentioned before. Like, I would, I'll take under 10 minutes Jonathan Kuminga if you want it. Like, I think he plays single. I think he plays. I would go greater than 50% he steps on the court. Less than 50% he gets double-digit minutes is where I would land on Jonathan Kuminga. But I think also, you know, Looney's time will end up being pretty limited. I think Nemanja Bjelica is largely out of the rotation, if not entirely.
Gellner's asking, Otto should be pretty safe with no Iguodala. And just the way that they're running this rotation right now, I think that Looney's minutes stay at best kind of what we saw to end that series.
Otto is fine. He does a lot of things for this team. Iguodala obviously helps a bit. I have Otto right now at 22.5 minutes and 18.5 fantasy points. 3,700, that's fine. And there are obviously any number of worlds in which he gets 26, 27 minutes and could get a fantasy point a minute. And sure, Lobster, you could get all the way home. There's a couple guys I have very close to him. He ends up very close to Tyus Jones. I have him a little bit better than Grant Williams. Like he's in a very similar range to a lot of those players. But Otto's safe, I think, is a fair way to put it. I have him as slightly better than Pat Connaughton. So like he is floating around in that range, but I would not. So, any thoughts on Looney minutes? I have thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts. I would not play Kevon. I think there is enough of a chance that he plays 13 minutes or less that I don't want to do it. Obviously, 3,100 is an incredibly compelling price. But even if you are dumpster diving, I think I probably land first on, like, certainly Gary Payton II, who's only a few $100s more. You can do weird stuff like Melton or Conchar are in that range. I'm trying to think of other guys you can get to. But Looney, for me today, feels a little too cute. It's not insane. I can envision the scenario in which they get pushed big the entire time. You get Adams and all sorts of junk out there, and he ends up playing whatever minutes. But like he would be in the range with me with Zaire Williams if in Peyton Pritchard, Anthony Melton. Like, those guys are all guys I project for not much better than single-digit minutes. So super cheap guys I would like more than Kevon Looney. I think who is my favorite of that uber cheap. Again, Gary Payton is going to be my favorite. GP is where I'd want to go. Did you get some ownership? I don't even want to guess at it, but if you want to give it,
I'll pull it up. I was looking at the showdown here first for Josh, who wanted to.
Well, you're not going to actually get any Adams, but let's just
see.
But no Tillman either. Like, I have Tillman for 14 minutes. I think I would prefer Tillman to Looney. I would prefer Tillman to Looney.
He did say Adams, Tyreek. All right, opening up the ownership here. You want to play the game or just read it out?
No, you can just read it out. I haven't been paying attention for a couple hours. I won't be close at all.
So we got Marcus Smart at 50, Jason Tatum 45.5, Time Lord 37. I like that a lot on the 2-game slate.
All right, start again.
Smart 50, Tatum 45.5, Time Lord 37, Giannis 35, Jalen 33, Grant Williams 31.5, Bobby Portis 27, Grayson Allen 26, Pat Connaughton 25, Horford 18, Wes Matthews 17, 14.5 Drew Holiday, 13 Derek White, 11 Brooke Lopez, 7% Daniel Tice, 6 Javon Carter, 2 Peyton Pritchard, everybody else sub.
Yeah, it's almost exactly what I expected. The best guy there's probably Drew Holiday at 15 again. It's a 2-game fucking slate. Like, he does not project brilliantly for me, but still very, very good. I have 39 minutes and 44 3/4 fantasy points. Just fine for an average projection for 8,200. Obviously, the matchup still is not great, but 15% is just way, way the hell too small. I don't know what I mean, no, not way, way the hell, but he should be mid to high 20s. Like, one of these games is going to bust off and drop 53 or something, and on a 2-game slate at 8-2, that'll certainly get you home.
What's your series prediction here for Warriors Grizz?
I've gone back and forth on this. I think I'm going to stick with Warriors in 6.
Yeah, that is also what I have. I wonder if are we going to you have your predictions for tomorrow's 2 series as well?
No, I'm sorry. Someone keeps sending me a message about letting me know Steven Adams isn't playing. Yeah, he's in the protocols. I was thinking of Kyle Anderson and getting down into the small, and then I was just going through the whether or not Zaire Williams goes, and just trying to figure out how the second rotation on that team would end up. And but no, Adams isn't going to play. Thoughts on Clay? I'm fairly ambivalent on Clay. Again, on Golden State, I end up with Steph being pretty clearly my favorite, then Draymond being pretty clearly my second. And then again, I end up with Clay, Jordan Poole, and Andrew Wiggins in a pretty tight band. I probably land on Clay again, but we had this exact conversation a few days ago. Obviously, I prefer Peyton to Porter among the value plays there, and that'll be interesting to see if that turns out. But I think I might get 24 minutes out of Gary Payton. That feels pretty good at 3,400.
What I guess for the price point, the interesting decision here is Clay and Jordan Poole separated by $300. Would you Clay over Jordan Poole? Because that's where I'm at with those 2.
I would. Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane will guard Clay a little bit more. I mean, the wing defense on this team is honestly pretty good. I mean, one of the reasons you like Steph is that the Grizzlies are much more vulnerable on the outside generally from guards than they are from wings. You have Dylan Brooks doing a decent job, Desmond Bane doing a decent job. They're more susceptible at the point, and Ja is still exploitable on that level. He's not Trae Young bad, but when you compare Trae and Ja, which is a conversation I've had several times recently, Ja's defense is still pretty bad. It's not Trae bad, but it's pretty bad.
How do you feel about Wiggins down there at 5'6"? I mean, he's going to get some pretty favorable matchups here.
Yeah, and he will get tasked with a lot of guarding Ja.
Oh yeah, it's him and Gary Payton, right? Are going to be the 2 primary guys there on Ja. Yeah,
and occasionally both of them. But he's going to see those 2 guys are going to be. And again, they had you can go back and there's a lot of data throughout the year, and that's one of the reasons, Gary. If you literally look at guys who guarded Ja tight longer than 20 minutes, Gary Payton was one of the absolute best guys in the league. It was him and Chris Paul and Pat Beverly, and he did a really, really impressive job there. And again, I think it's I'm slightly more inclined towards the secondary guys on Memphis than I am getting towards Ja. Ja's obviously just fine. It's Ja. I have him projecting for just a touch under 50 last run now. But I'd be a little more inclined to probably Brooks, Bane, Clark than Ja. Even Tyus, in theory, is a viable value play, and you're getting some leverage off a, to some degree, owned Ja Morant. But Portis coming right in where I expected in the mid to high 20s is also pretty good. So, yeah, again, at the ownership we got, Giannis was less than I thought. I thought Giannis would get into the 40s.
Yeah.
But
there just wasn't a ton of value to help you
it
get
made
there.
it tough. Made it really tough.
Yeah. You think when, hopefully Steven Adams gets out of the protocol by game 2, you think he slots back in there in the starting 5?
I will guess no, but it's going to have a lot to do with how game 1 goes.
Okay. Well, I know there's still about 40 people tuned in here yet. There's been no shilling here yet on this Sunday. I'll just say you can sign up for FTN Daily. Use the promo code FTNTV, gets you 15% off any package. And if you're still here and you haven't yet, hit that thumbs up, that like button. Helps us out a ton. And the YouTube algorithm loves those likes. Yeah, and don't forget to subscribe. Shout out Hugo there in the Discord.
Yeah.
How did was that like a lock-in last night for the junior prom?
Yeah, so like when I went to prom, you went to prom and then you went to you tried to get, if you had a good date, you then went to the hotel. Nowadays, as a way of stopping that in good Christian country here in Ohio, they have a party for all the kids after the prom. So they rented out basically the student union of a nearby college. So they had 2 gyms and a climbing wall and 4 ping pong tables and 8 billiard tables and a DJ and pizza. There are 500 kids running. I had a ton of fun. I was doing like hacky sack and playing all kinds of sports. Like everything hurts today because I was running around playing shit with 20-year-olds the whole day. Got lots of cornhole, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm with some good cornholing on prom night. But it was enjoyable. My daughter looked lovely. All right, I'm not really going to put this shit on Twitter, but I find you guys mildly less disturbingly pervy than the guys in this. I will show you a picture of my daughter and her date at junior prom. I know you all can't wait, so I shall upload this picture forthwith. Very exciting. So again, subscribe to FTN. You can see pictures of my beautiful 17-year-old daughter. Let's keep it PG, guys. Don't make me regret this. Okay, let me find a picture here. God damn it, I gotta take it out of the other thing. All right, this is gonna take a minute. I'm gonna drum roll for this one. Okay. All right, nice. I'm not gonna show a picture of her boyfriend. Well, I don't know. I'm 50-50 on this. One, he's sort of a big dork, which again, they say daughters look for their fathers. But then I guess everyone will make fun of him. Maybe that's good. Yeah, let's all make fun of this kid together. Let's bond in the making fun of this child. Okay. Save. Okay, I should have the picture now.
Video of chair bowling. I guess I missed more posts.
Oh yeah, I was. So there was an office chair that I was zipping around at 100 miles an hour and using it to bowl over some pins. It was all right. Here we go. That is my daughter and her date.
Oh, they're looking sharp there.
Yeah, she cleans up well.
That's nice.
Yeah. All bullshit aside, that is my pride and joy there. That kid is a bit all right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's adorbs. One day, some of your 7 kids will grow up that cute, Tyreek. I think he's a freakish young fella. I think he suffers from any number of childhood diseases, and like my daughter and I are close, like too close. And normally this has been a good thing, but she's not afraid to ask me anything. So, Dad, do you like it when a girl? Like I can't even, like the bile is rising to think about this, which is like, again, honored, thrilled with the trust my daughter has in me. But she's sexually active now. It's horrible. It's honestly absolutely terrible. Like, it's the absolute worst thing. Like, I wake up in a cold fucking sweat. It's like, it's like, I don't even know what to say about it because there's nothing else you can do. Like, only once have I been like, yeah, I don't get, like, he wants me to do this, but he won't do this. And I'm just like, all right. What do you want me to do, honey? Pull him aside and tell him he's got to munch?
Josh says, don't go to Eddie for your do you like it when a girl advice because you will never hear no.
I mean, that's not true. I have it's taken a while, but late in my life I've started to come up with things a woman can do sexually that I don't enjoy. There's not many things. But there's a short and discreet list. Yeah, the kid looks too much like me, sadly for her. She's gonna be trimming those eyebrows for a long time.
Do you strike fear? I'm skipping right to Hugo's third question here. Do you strike fear into this young man's heart for dating your daughter?
He's fucking terrified. So there was one time he's a big kid too. But don't get me wrong, but I will fucking kill him. And I'm just saying, even though he's a big kid, he's fucking terrified. Yes, the bad boy scene. I didn't do him quite that bad, but like so he's all right. He's a big Elvis man. I'm not kidding. This 16-year-old kid is enormously into Elvis. Like, I turn on music in the car and he's like, you got any Elvis? And I'm like, how about this? And he's like, how about Elvis? And I'm like, I've got my music. I'm listening to like Tool and Nine Inch Nails and I'm like, okay, it's a little more old school. How about some Zeppelin? He's like, no, none of that modern shit. I want this 16-year-old kid really just wants Elvis Presley. I can get him to endure some Johnny Cash. But like, they're like, hey, we're all going to play Rock Band and Guitar Hero. And again, I was going to show him up. You know why? Because I'm awesome at those games.
Yeah.
Just in case you're wondering. And he's like, no, sorry, I won't do it. And then we talked him, we cajoled him into Rock Band Beatles. Wow.
Okay.
He was willing to.
I'll tell you, you never have to cajole me for any sort of rock band.
Really? You're in?
Oh man.
We have to get a set in Newark. Did you know who might join us in New York? Have you heard?
No, who?
You haven't heard?
No.
There's someone who might come to meet us, hypothetically.
Oh.
Our good friend Josh. Our good friend Jay Frick might hypothetically take a road trip across the country just to hang out with the two of us at once.
Yeah. You know, he also, and congrats to Josh, got a little gig, I think, little 2-month job here in Texas.
I know.
So he's going to be down in my neck of the woods. We were talking going to an Austin FC game. So don't let that soccer slander that Josh puts out there in the chat fool you. He wants to go to
it's like two things. It's like when you throw rocks at the girl you like in grade school. It's a lot like that with the soccer. It's also like when you constantly protest how masculine and heterosexual you are. It's a lot like that too. When you're constantly like, no way, I love women. There's no way I was looking at that guy's ass. Wouldn't do it. Never done it. You heard me right. Never looked at that guy's ass. Okay. Oh my God. So there was a really, really, I don't even know how to say this. I'm just going to tell you this. This young man, good looking guy. I don't know if this is relevant for the story, but I'm going to add it anyway, just so you can help, just so you can picture it.
Sure.
Young black guy, good-looking guy, football player. He's on the football team. And he walks up to my wife and I, who are at that time volunteering at the cornhole, the golf cornhole thing, and asks for the rules. And so we explain the rules, and she explains that it's just like mini golf. You can ignore all the bullshit. There's a basketball hoop and a football thing and some pylons. Just get the ball in the hole. It's a lot like mini golf. There's some shit in the way, but just get it in the hole. And he goes, oh. And he looks at my wife, and he literally runs this. He literally goes, oh, I'm really good at finding holes. And I'm just like, sitting right there. And I have to presume, no, maybe not. Maybe he thinks they're volunteers. Maybe he just thinks he's funny. And I was just like, can't do much about it. My wife looked at me, and I'm like, the kid's got some game. And just when I'm like, here, you may handle my sacks. And I handed him some, and he went up to corner. But like, he took his shot at my wife, I think. Which, oddly enough, the exact same pickup line I used to meet her like 20 years ago. So
you may handle my sacks.
There was a lot of our sacks are dirty. They've been like I could have gotten sued so many. Oh my God! Like I'm the worst volunteer. Yeah.
Cody says, keep that fucking kid away from all of our moms.
I'm telling you. I'm a
Damn,
mother.
I didn't know Easy B was in high school.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. So there was so that was interesting. And then I wonder if I have a bad belt. I'm tempted to take. All right, so I'm gonna take my pants off real quick. Because
how much for your wife? The kids. I want to buy your children.
Okay, so my pants are coming off because I'm curious if I have a welt. So this other guy came around. I was hanging out with, and we were like doing sports all night, and we were doing hacky sack, and I'm just trying to play with the kids and pretend. And there were definitely like, it was much more cool than old man Steve Buscemi with the skateboard. Hello, fellow kids, awkward old man. There was a little bit of that, but not much. And so this other guy who was the pitcher on the baseball team, varsity pitcher, and I just start gunning heavy fucking beanbags at each other. And again, he has a much better arm than I do. And mine goes out very quickly. And he's just like, I can hear them sizzling through the air. And I got caught nasty with one of them in the leg. So we're going to do a real quick welt check.
All right.
How are you doing? No, sadly, no welt. I honestly thought I was going to have like a big red purple thing on my thigh. He caught me nasty with one.
Oh man!
No.
Speaking of Blues Brothers, I was disappointed in the Gone Fishing for the Bulls, the graphic for Gone Fishing on Inside the NBA. They had the Bluesmobile flying through the air in the background,
nice.
And I think Kenny and Chuck were like, "What is the? I don't get the police car," and nobody got in Ernie's ear. First of all, I thought Ernie would just come right off the top, but no producer.
Ernie would be familiar with police.
Yeah, nobody. They didn't even address it.
I'm on a mission.
I was a little miffed.
I got. I just want a whole chicken and 2 burnt pieces of toast. Or what is the order?
4 fried chickens and a Coke.
4 fried chicken, but someone says
dry,
I want
dry
like
white toast.
Yeah, and then we got half a tank of gas, a full pack of cigarettes. It's midnight, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it, something like that. It's been a while.
We're on a mission from God.
We're on a mission from God.
The band, Elwood. The band.
The band.
What a great scene with. I mean, the movie obviously as a whole. Ray Charles and Aretha and
Cab Calloway.
The James Brown. The James Brown church scene is. I can't get enough of the people like backflipping next to the neon cross.
Do you see the light? Yeah. Have you ever seen the really weird Clive Owen, James Brown, and the devil in a BMW ad?
I don't think so.
There is some insane advertisement. Someone needs to come up with the. There was let me tell you the difference. When I was in high school, you newfangled kids, we didn't really have the gay people, and we really didn't have the trans people. Just none. There were legends of. There's this weird guy in your town who dresses up like but it was like Boo Radley, or they were fucking werewolves or something. Like, we didn't have that shit. Holy shit! In suburban Ohio, in Trump country, we're going about. I'm like, this is just a cornucopia. Like, I thought it was really, really encouraging. I really enjoyed my evening. There was this one girl with special needs. Clearly, had some special needs. I'll just put it that way. And she came into the room, and these 4 other people just started taking her around the cornhole course and helping her doing everything. Like, uninspired by everything. They don't know me from fucking Adam. There's no other teachers there. There's literally 12 teenagers in the room. And this one other girl wanders in and clearly has some special needs. And the other kids know her and flock to her, and you're doing a great job, and take her halfway to the hall and pick up. Like, I was so inspired by these fucking Trump voting kids. I'm just going to call it what it is. They were kind and conscientious, and at least some of them. Some of them wanted to stick their dick in my wife, but some of them were young people of character, and I was really inspired.
Look at Tyreek's wife sending him a picture there of their grocery shopping for the day. He says, "This is why I need to win some money."
Let's critique. All right. So first of all, are you mixing all that juice with water for these? Okay, because that's a lot of. That's a lot of cranberry juice where we got down there. That's a lot of pink ocean spray in that cart. Okay, hold on. I want to put this on my 4K monitor. Let's really get in here. Let's see what we got going on here. I mean, is that thing on top? Is that pet food?
It looks like a bag of chips to me. The blue?
It's a sleeping bag. It can't be chips. You could smuggle a midget into Mexico in that bag.
Free on it. It looks like Sun Chips.
Oh, I think you're right. I see the GF marker on this. That's good eyes there. You kids with your newfangled eyes.
That is the largest bag of Sun Chips I think I've ever seen.
That's insane. Look at the size of that. I mean, there's salsa under it, so it would suggest a correlation. With a lot of
you sun chipping and
some money
salsa?
If you bought some real dishes.
Crazy.
Do we need to have like a thing?
I was wondering about the
buy Tyreek some plates because look at the paper plates. Are you having a barbecue? We're getting
those are 200 packs too.
There's some all right. So there's and the other thing is chips too. The big white thing in the back, top left back is fucking veggie chips too. There's 4 different kinds of chips at least. All right. First of all, carb much? Like Jesus Christ. I gained 6 pounds looking at this cart. All right, there's some Toll House chocolate chips as well.
I feel like now a new like post-lock bit has now been born. Is like let us dissect your grocery
big ass
your
bag
grocery
of sugar
cart.
too. You see big ass bag of sugar, granulated sugar right under the chips. Like she's getting ready to make some cookies. You know what they need? More sugar.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of other, cleaning supplies in there. You got the young kids running around.
Try to see what's on the bottom. Is that like Swiffer fuel?
Some applesauce.
Yeah. Yeah, little packages.
Laundry detergent. Yeah, the TP.
Also on the top, by the way, that is a big ass bag of shredded cheese.
Hey, I won't hate on that.
I had some. So I had a tough week, honestly. I had a very difficult week for a couple of reasons. And so about 3:00 on Friday, I said, fuck it, I'm dropping this diet. Because diet isn't doing anything for me. I weigh exactly what I weighed 3 months ago, and I have not cheated on my diet for 1 second one day. I have not had more than 20 grams of net carbs a day for like 100 days. And I weigh exactly what I weighed 100 days ago, which is fine. I'm maintaining. But I said, fuck it. I'm not losing any weight anyway, and I got to get gassed up for this charity basketball game I got to play in like 6 weeks. So I really got to get my sweat on anyway. So, fuck it. I'm going off my diet for 2 days. What kind of shit can I pour into my body? And I have put all right. So this is, but I mean, for those of you, I can't believe anyone would care about this. But if you're curious about the foods I have consumed in the last 48 hours, I will top of my head the following list. I had a delicious DeBella's Submarine, medium, but DeBella's, that's a big fucking sub. With roast beef, mayonnaise, and some nice balsamic vinegar. Delicious on their homemade bread. That was wonderful. I had 2 different servings of pizza, 3 if you count what I had last night. I had a gourmet pizza, which I consumed the entire thing. So a large fucking pizza. Which was chicken wings with chicken wing sauce and little bits of blue cheese crumbles and some stuff there. Then my daughter and her friend had Domino's before the prom thing. And so I had a couple slices of that. And then there was pizza at that. I had, let's just see what's in this. So I had in its entirety, it's not Tyreek sized, but I had this entire bag of Cheetos Puffs. Let's see, there's 8 servings per container, 160 calories per serving. That's 1,280 calories. I had 6 chocolate chip cookies that were upstairs. I had an entire sleeve, like a 10-pack of little Kit Kats. I had a full Twix bar. I had, so far I had an entire quart of Netflix and Chill. Ice cream, which I also added bits of Jif peanut butter to. At the also eating last night, I had 2 packages of Skittles, a package of Swedish Fish, and a package of, hence being awake still, of Sour Patch Kids at the junior prom thing. I feel like I'm still missing. Yeah, I've been eating anyway. Like, so I've been, and my wife's like, maybe you should put some turkey on that. I'm like, no. Nothing that way. She's because of like, you could. I've not eaten anything that is remotely useful for anything in my body for several days now. And even to me, that's a lot of chips on that fucking card, Tyreek. Like, you might as well give him paint chips.
So some important context here. His newly married brother and his bride are staying with Tyreek and the family until they close on their apartment.
I figured he had Ukrainian refugees.
Yeah.
Am I about to run? I have been busting my ass. Like, I have been obviously exercise with the kids a lot, and I have my under desk. But like, hold on, let me get on my bike.
Oh, you got the pedals down there?
Right here. It has been engaged. Yeah, I got to burn this shit off. All right, let's go. Here we go. I'm back on. You can hear it squeaking. It's old.
I do like a little squeak.
I'm going fast. I want to go fast. Anyhow, I've got some extra energy. So yeah, I've been biking and lifting weights and whatever. Yeah. I could go weigh myself. I could do a weight loss thing, but that is. And so for the rest of that, what else is left? I have 2 packages of naan upstairs and some tikka masala sauce. We're gonna fucking get into that this afternoon and evening. I want to get some more gourmet donuts. And the whole reason this came up is I asked my wife for pretzel bread. I love pretzel bread. Usually just gets me rolls of pretzel bread, and I just fucking eat pretzel bread. Love pretzel bread. She's like, they didn't have it, so I just got you these little pretzel wrap things. And I'm like, I need something to dip this shit in. Like, it's like 50, I don't know, the size of a couple knuckles there. Little pretzel ties, knots, I guess you would call them. I don't know, then dip them in. I'm like, shit, I need some melted cheese stat. And Tyreek's got my fucking melted cheese. I wish I had that. I would let's go. It's like, I think I'm specifically going to make a trip to the store to get some more Netflix and chill and some melted cheese. And so I'm giving myself until whenever I go to sleep tonight.
Mm-hmm. Josh asking if he's allowed to film the charity game and put it live on FTN. We may actually have a stream. I'm not sure, but if we don't, then...
I'm exercising every day between now and then. I just got to get my cardio up. I was running around with those kids last night, and after about 90 seconds, I'm like, oh,
dude, hell. The last charity game that I played in, which obviously was pre-pandemic, my lungs were burning.
Yeah,
run. I'm a runner. Basketball is just a different beast, man. You can't be. The only way to get in basketball shape is to play basketball.
I'm gonna fight hard for you guys to let me bring up the point. You know why? It's gonna be fucking slow. It's gonna be deliberate. It's gonna be some Chris Paul shit. It's gonna be like, I'm just getting some air. I'm gonna call a play. I know we don't have any plays, but
as long as we maybe it's I don't know, you donate $1 to access the stream or something like that. For a good cause. This is for a scholarship in my buddy's friend's name, high school friend. She died in a car accident when they were in high school, and my buddy has created the scholarship fund, which I believe last time, Eddie, we funded for like 3 or 4 years with the what we took in from the last game. So hopefully we can top that.
What is how are we making money?
They sell. I believe
they pay $10,000 to play, I guess is what I'm saying.
No.
We're gonna get a check. Nice jersey. That'll be $3,000.
Yeah. No, there's I think they pull in a couple donations from around that area. I think the tickets are like $5. That goes towards it. We do a raffle, so like I'll take up some memorabilia that I have, and we'll like raffle that off. I think last time it was a Alonzo jersey. Which actually came, I think, the week after Anthony Davis. I think the week after Anthony Davis got traded and Lonzo went to the Pelicans. So we had this Lonzo jersey that was Lakers, and he was then a member of the Pelicans like a week before the game.
It's been like an hour since I've eaten any carbs.
Yeah, you're
the whole thing like people you don't think I'm kidding. That was statistical. Here it is, the sleeve of the Kit Kats. There is nothing left unless it smells wonderful, but I was not. This is the box the cookies came in. I don't like there's anything else down here. Like all my health food is down here. I look around and I say like Atkins wafer bars.
Yeah,
like you're so weak. I even deserve to be here. So.
Oh man, let's check in. I guess before we take off here, let's check in on the Bucks.
Yeah, let's see if I have anything else for the second game that I didn't say about guys who jumped out. I didn't have any massive notes today, so I didn't. like preload with anything. Again, like I think the Drew thing was kind of obvious. We'll see how it goes. Portis was my favorite sort of GPP guy there. Which artist did my shirt? Hold on, let me refasten my pants, and then we can. I don't feel like I gained much weight. Again, I've been running my ass around like crazy, and again, cocaine's a hell of a drug. This is. Hopefully, there is a sign on it. I am not as familiar with the original comic book artist as whatever. This obviously.
Hugo says it looks like Jim Lee.
Let's take Zach a little bit here. Who is this? Who is this woman?
I don't think I can really see. So you got Wolverine on the right. Who is
This is Cyclops, Scott Summers. This Professor X. This Beast. Who's this?
That's a good question.
That's Psylocke. Thank you. Very good there. Her brother is Captain Britain. You go in deep there.
I wasn't an X-Men guy. I very much enjoy the movies. Like I think.
Well, I mean, there was whoa, like I got mad after a while. First one, great. Second one, great. Third one, reboot, great. Then I got Psylocke was in one of them, played by what's her name, who was banging Aaron Rodgers. Olivia Munn.
Yes. Newsroom.
Who really knows how to handle a hot dog? The Newsroom.
Yeah. That talk about shows that went downhill after that opening monologue.
Some of it was fucking Sorkin.
I did not. I enjoyed it. I don't think I came back for season 2.
I love the whole thing. Love is too much. I greatly enjoy many segments of it, and I enjoy the characters, and I can turn off the parts of my brain you need to turn off. So, like, Aaron Sorkin is, at the same time, one of the best and one of the most limited writers ever. He writes witty white people better than anyone else. And it's amazingly compelling. But that is fucking it. If you want someone to write a black person or a dumb person or, God forbid, a fucking woman, go somewhere else, because that asshole knows how to write witty white fucking people. That's it. Yeah. And it's got fucking Molly's Game, fucking Malice, A Few Good Men, The West Wing, Sports Night, Newsroom. I love me some Aaron Sorkin, but fuck me, is that guy limited? Like, he is very good at this and fuck all terrible at every other kind of character. Like, it's amazing for me to watch. Like, it's like, okay, you're extremely good at writing erudite white guy. And out. Absolutely.
Who goes upset because he says the Newsroom was fantastic? Yeah, I think I think I let my expectations for the show get a little bit too high because I enjoyed that first episode so much.
Hugo, have you seen the Sorkinisms series on YouTube?
By the way, Eddie, Grizzlies Timberwolves playoff moment is the dunk over the buzzer beater.
Have you seen the Sorkinisms?
Have I or Hugo?
I'm asking if Hugo has seen the series Sorkinisms and Sorkinisms 2 on YouTube. It is literally 2 different 10-minute videos of Aaron Sorkin plagiarizing himself. Literally 5 people from 4 shows saying the exact same fucking thing. Literally, like, it's, oh my God, do you have to, if you are at all into anything Aaron Sorkin, the West, anything that I said, go Google Sorkinisms and you will greatly, because you'll be like, oh yeah, that and that, and fucking, I didn't even know that one. Like, there's just times there's like, wow, 6 different characters are gonna, you haven't seen Shakespeare the way it's meant to be done. Like, oh my God, is it everywhere? You're curious on my opinion on the missing 411. I don't even know what that means. Do you know what that means? What the missing?
I do not.
Okay. Well, Josh, neither Zach nor I know to what you were referring. A Few Good Men is great. Again, though, however, I am, and I'm just give you want to. Here's my 2 woke card. I'm putting it up. Fuck, is he so bad at making women seem competent? There are so many. So Joanne Galloway, which is the name of the character played by Demi Moore in both the film and the and on stage, and I've seen both. I haven't been in it. It's on my bucket list. I almost came out of retirement for theater. There is a place here doing the Addams Family, and I was this fucking close to going. I would like to play Gomez Addams. Like, holy shit, was I fuck? I couldn't do it, but oh my god. Like, yeah, he's saying I after watching Vehicles versus the Bump in the Road another 100 times. Oh, I haven't. I got it. Okay, I'm catching up. I haven't clicked on that link yet, but I saw the first episode is the Newsroom is good. Some of it is so there are so many cringe moments in those shows. And again, I love these shows. I have seen every episode of the Newsroom twice. I have seen every episode of The West Wing 4 times. That's a lot for me. Like, those are both in the top. Like, I put a great. I forgot you were asleep the day they taught law in law school. Just again, you will never thank me enough for watching the 2 episodes of Sorkinisms. And apparently Sorkin watched it and said was apparently cool with it. So, but it's just him plagiarizing himself over and over and over and over and over. And you can get around it with really good acting.
Yeah.
Fuck, are all the guys like, what are the, like, all right, we're talking about the Newsroom, okay? All right, so let's talk about the characters in the Newsroom. You ready? There's the guy David Harbour plays. I can't remember that character name for some reason, but the lead anchor who gets injured while he's at the riots in Egypt or whatever. Then there is Don Kiefer, and then there is Will, and then there is the other producer guy, the younger, boyish, cute one, played by whomever. Name something different about those 4 characters. I mean it. Tell me something different about those 4 men.
Yeah.
They're all white, kind, nice, hearts of gold, intelligent, studious. Because they're the same guy. Like, all the characters are the same. Like, the West Wing.
He says their ages.
Managed to do a little, but the difference between the president, Leo, Josh, Sam, Toby was like, oh, this one's got a beard. Like, just. They're all really, really, their ages. Yeah, they're all really, really. I mean, there are mild differences in them, but Jesus Christ, is he narrow? It's like, right, the 10 most different characters you can think of, Aaron Sorkin. All right, I got a white guy. I got a white guy with a hat. I got a white guy. It's just like.
I got a white guy with a hat.
Give me a little more here. Is there anything you can do? Like, they're all the same guy. They've got hearts of gold and they've got a rough edge. Sometimes they're not nice to the people they work with, but in a pinch, they'll be there for them. And fuck me. Jesus Christ. Like, it's so good, but so bad.
Oh, man.
But no, some of that is good. The other second best scene from that. So the best scene is, I believe, the opening monologue. It's very well written and it's a little overly dramatic. I'm a little more centrist than that, but I do think it is a great side to an argument. The second best scene is the one where he discusses all the slight changes in history that happened because of very small nuances. And I remember a few of them off the top of my head. But he is talking about, it is when they are talking. Okay, I can't believe I'm going to do this all at once. Here we go. The large swath of the plot of season 2 is, for various reasons, the cast of the Newsroom becomes convinced that a story they hear about an operation called Genoa is correct, where the United States military has committed a war crime by dropping sarin gas on civilians. And it is the whole story of this unfolding, while they thought it was correct, how they got screwed, how they had to retract, and whoa, it's this whole thing. So we're at the point where Will McAvoy, that's the character played by Jeff Daniels in the Newsroom, is talking to the lawyers about how the fuck could this happen. And he goes into a spiel about various things that happened in history that were massively different because of one little change. So one, he says, I'm going to get the year wrong, but in 1955, I think I'm off by a year, in Montgomery, Alabama, there is a black woman who refuses to get up from her seat on the front of the bus and move to the back of the bus when directed to by a white man. And her name is Claudette Colvin. And they're thinking about rallying behind her and starting the Montgomery bus boycotts, but it turns out that she is 17 and pregnant, and they decide that is not the best foot forward to use to launch their bus boycott motion, which became critical for civil rights in the United States of America. And so instead of launching it then, they launched it the next summer or something, which is 9 months later. But over those 9 months, a young charismatic preacher named Martin Luther King became the head of that community. But if they went 9 months earlier, and if Claudette Colvin's boyfriend hadn't impregnated her, Martin Luther King is a preacher you've never heard of from Montgomery, Alabama. It's one of the things he says. Who is Giuseppe Zangara? I think I'm getting that name right. He was a man who, while Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the president-elect of the United States in 1932, attempted to assassinate him. Now, he failed, and he was standing on a wobbly chair. And because of the wobbly chair, he failed to shoot FDR and instead shot the mayor of Chicago that he was shooting hands with at the time. But if he had succeeded in that assassination, and just if the chair wasn't wobbly, he would have killed him, and FDR's vice presidential candidate would have been sworn in, which is John Nance Garner, who was strongly opposed to the New Deal, and maybe the United States doesn't even survive the Great Depression. The other one I remember is he talks about that the Space Shuttle Challenger blew up because the O-rings, the washers that kept the fuel boosters separate, had never been checked below a certain amount of temperature, because when it's going to be cold, the thing launches from Florida while there was a cold snap, and the temperature went down to 35 degrees, and the washer stopped working under 40. So the Challenger blew up. So it goes. That's the other good scene there, where he goes through the fickle nuances of history. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. That season 2 was executed brilliantly. Yeah, I thought there was a lot of very good stuff.
And it's still early here in this Celtics-Bucks game, but so far, the Time Lord lock that we recommended at the top of the stream, looking very nice so far.
Yeah, I like Time Lord. Portis. Tatum was always fine. Giannis was obviously fine. Giannis 6'5" and 4, 3 turnovers.
Yeah, Tatum still hasn't made a shot, but contributing in all the other categories.
Yeah,
so
2 and
far.
2. A free throw. Bob with 4, 2 and 6. Nice.
I mean, you would feel great about a Time Lord Portis pairing right now, I think. And Drew off to a hot start as well.
Very nice. Good. Thank God. It was very frustrating for me to get there the last 2 games. I'm like, all right, fuck me. Like, it was very disappointing. Each time I was like, well, we'll get him next time because people are going to screw this up again. But yeah. All right. So any other Aaron Shorkin questions? So I like a few. So one of my, before you joined Super Draft, one of my fun things is we went to a golf outing. We had everyone to a golf outing, and we all took a van from the Encore to the place we were playing golf in New Hampshire. So get 12 guys in a van, and they're playing. Someone starts talking about movies, and they start bringing up. They're doing various movie trivia games. So people are like naming an actor, and you name as many films as they can be in. And like, I've been with the company for 10 days at this point, and despite my public persona, I really don't like looking like the biggest douche in the world. So they're on like name Tom Cruise movies. And like the van collectively has 12 or 14. And I have 36. Like I've probably every like, and we're just going through this, and they're like, "Oh, are you a big Tom Cruise fan?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "I'm like, okay, pick another actor, whatever." And then they start, and then someone gets into A Few Good Men gets brought up, and I just start going off on the character roles or something like that. I'm like, "Well, no, actually, his name is not Martinson; it's Markinson." And then they're like, the 2 guys at an airport. I'm like, "Are you talking about Airman Cecil O'Malley?" So you're talking about like I just remember getting up on someone for remembering Airman Cecil O'Malley and the whole. It's a good cast too. You have Christopher Guest as the doctor. That's the weirdest casting in that. Christopher Guest, so Best in Show, Waiting for Guffman, Princess Bride, an amazing, absolute Yes, a strong testimony. That's he's got me. Christopher Guest is the on-base physician at Guantanamo Bay. Christopher Guest is a hilarious comedic actor. It's, I think, the only serious role I've ever seen him in.
Mm-hmm.
Randomly the doctor in that. There's a very young Noah Wiley. There's a very young Cuba Gooding Jr. There's quite a cast in that. But yeah, Airman Cecil O'Malley was a good one. The entire cast is perfectly put together. Let's see if there's anyone there I don't like. JT Walsh was incredible as Lieutenant Colonel Markinson. He died not long after that, and if you haven't seen the speech Jack Nicholson gave at the Oscars when JT Walsh passed on, just call him a real glue guy. Just follow the crowd at chow time. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anyone in there I did not like the casting. I am not a big fan of Demi Moore. I do not think she's a great actress. She's not bad. She's not an eyesore in that film. And I'm really cognizant of, again, because they write her. It's not Mandy season 1 of The West Wing, cringe-inducing, terrible, fuck, I can't write women. It's not good. It's not good. Like it's not good. You know what movie I saw the other day? I almost recorded a YouTube video. Almost went out and recorded a YouTube video about how bad the first hour of Batman Begins is. Like, I was like, Jesus! I rewatched it for that because I haven't watched the Pattinson Batman yet. I'm saving it like a delicious Twix bar in the freezer. But I'm building up to it. So I'm watching old Batmans. I actually watched I watched the Keaton Batmans, both of them. Aged okay. I watched the entirety of the Kilmer Batman. It was tolerable. It's not good, but it was tolerable. I could not make it through Batman and Robin. I tried. Like, it's so bad. It's pretty funny for a while. And I honestly really like Arnold. But I got about halfway through that. And then I hit Batman Begins, and I'm like, this movie is not good. For like the first hour, I'm just like, oh, come on. Like, I just had this entire like video in my head, which was just like, hey, Ken Watanabe, you want to play? Fucking so much of the first half of that movie is so bad. I'm like, hold on. Like the whole thing where it's like, yes, you have come to Asia to intentionally get yourself incarcerated in Tibetan prison where 6 guys jump you before breakfast every morning because you want to learn about the criminal mind. And it's just like, hold on. It's just not like it's oh my God. Yeah, no, the Dark Knight is very close to pitch perfect. That movie could not be a lot, but there's a couple flaws in that. But fucking Batman Begins, I'm just like, this is so fucking trite. And then the stuff with his family where like, oh, you're some of the tech explanations, like they bring out the Batmobile, like this was a bridging vehicle.
Yeah.
There's a scene where they're riding it, and Lucius Fox, Morgan Freeman, and Christian Bale, Bruce Wayne, are riding around in this big white underground space, talking about the Batmobile. Goes, this was built as a bridging vehicle. You would drive it up to a river and jump this vehicle over the river carrying a cable. Now, I'm not an expert in civil engineering, building bridges, but I am an expert in not being completely fucking retarded about how to do things. If you need to get a cable over a river, building a 10-ton, $50 million vehicle and equipping it with a launch thruster to jump it over the river is not the most efficient way to get a cable across a river. It's one of the most insane things I've ever, like, oh you
gotta spend the entire budget. Can't have the budget shrink next year.
There's so many things. Just watching this vehicle. I'm watching this movie and I'm just like, who the fuck wrote this? Like, I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan. It's just hitting me in the. There's one scene where they're building the bat armor, and like they felt the need to like. At some point, Christopher Nolan got in his head, and like again, he's coming after George Clooney, Batman, and Robin. He's like, "I'm gonna make this gritty and real. It's gonna be fucking heat. It's gonna be Michael Mann. It's gonna be fine." That was his thing. Cool, but he got too far with like, I need a reason for everything because we had to explain why the Batmobile could jump on roofs and had a thruster that would make it jump. It's like, oh, it's designed as a bridging vehicle, which just cracks me up. That like I'm just like. You need to get a cable across a river, and your solution isn't to just fire a piton or something. Like, how far can this 7-ton vehicle jump? In theory, where you keep like the fuck. So there's that one. Then there's a scene where they're talking about building the bat armor, and again, he wanted to be super realistic about everything. So he's talking about this, and we got this, and oh, you've got your fibrous plates here. Yeah, we had it for soldiers, but they're talking it out. And then they have the scene where Alfred and Bruce are talking about building the bat armor, the bat suit. And he's like, oh, I can get this and this. And Bruce is like, oh, you want to build it ourselves? And Alfred's like, yeah, sure. Now, again, let's do a little character review. It is stated clearly at the beginning of the movie that Bruce Wayne has been fucking around for 7 years in Tibetan prisons and shit. So, fine. But between him and Alfred, a 70-year-old British guy who's just been fucking sitting there in a house waiting for him to come home, they can construct next-level body armor and hook up all the pieces. Fine. Sure. It's a comic book movie. I would have let that go. But then he's like, I swear to God, it's the best line in the movie. They're talking about ordering the cowl, and they refer to it as a cowl, which is the headpiece. A cowl is it's the headpiece. And Alfred says, I want to make sure I get this exactly right. This is close to a quote. I don't do a good Michael Caine. I do a lot of impressions. Michael Caine is down there. He's got like I won't want to. He's Michael Caine. I can't really do it, so I won't try. But Michael Caine says fucking ordering just one would be suspicious. So we have to order them in quantity.
Yeah.
And Bruce goes, how many? He goes, I guess about 10,000. We'll come back to this, but they then come back to it. This isn't dumb fuck enough. 10 minutes later, they're testing one out, and they goes, there's a problem with the graphite in it. And you see him hit the cow with a hammer, and it shatters. And he goes, well, at least they gave us a decent discount on the next 10,000. This is in the fucking movie.
Yeah, I remember.
Ordering one cowl off the internet to a P.O. box is suspicious. So you're ordering 10,000 pieces of body armor because it's less suspicious.
Yeah.
For fuck, why? What the fuck? At what point did the writers just go like, I guess we got to explain about how they built the headgears. We need 7 more lines of like, we built it as a bridging vehicle. Jeez, you could have just said we built it as an all-terrain vehicle for the military. That would have floated. That would have been fine. It's designed for urban environment suppression. Like, I could have written 2 lines of dialogue that wouldn't have been utterly fucking asinine. Like, a bridging. Sorry. I was just watching about, fuck, the beginning of this movie is terrible. They go in and they're like, is someone recording this? This can just be the YouTube video. They go into the fucking temple. So, okay. We're in the Tibetan fucking prison. And he's in, I don't know about Tibetan, but they're in some mountains somewhere in fucking Southeast Asia. I'm going with Tibet. Might have been China. Might have been fucking Myanmar. Might have been Laos. I have no fucking idea. But we're in Asia. Gets himself arrested, for funsies. He wants to figure out how to stop crime, like in Gotham City. So he figures, I know where I'll go, 12,000 kilometers away, and get arrested and try to get killed by some people who got arrested for raping a yak or stealing a bowl of rice. That's roughly the same with the urban blight of Gotham. Sure, whatever. So he goes across the fucking world, and Ra's al Ghul, played by Liam Neeson, currently in disguise as Ducard, I think is what he calls himself, walks up and goes, like, I know you are, and they're going to let you out of here tomorrow, but if you want to come see us after that, there is a blue flower that grows on the western slopes of the mountain. So rather than, so he walks in, he's like, I know you're Bruce Wayne. I know what you're doing. I know you came here to study the criminal mind. You've been doing this for years, and you're in prison, and guys are trying to kill you every day, and I just saw 6 men fight you in the whole fucking thing. Once you get out of here, not just like, I'll pick you up and we'll talk then. Go find a flower on the Western Hills Mountain, then climb a mountain to my monk monastery building, because sure, fine. So now Bruce Wayne does the thing, and he goes and he finds a flower, he climbs the fucking mountain, he gets in the monastery, and there are 50 black-clad monk ninjas hanging around, ready to take his orders. And Ducard, the real Ra's al Ghul, training the other Ra's al Ghul, and in the most fucking overly typical Asianism, like I think Ken Watanabe was the actor who played the first Ra's al Ghul. If I'm getting, I could be getting my actors confused, but it's a really good actor, and like it's just the most ridiculous, stereotypical snatch the pedal from my hand Asian bullshit. So, okay. And so then they're like, he trains and trains and they love him. And there's like 50 super ninjas. And he goes, these men will now work with you to destroy Gotham. And first you need to show that you're really badass by cutting this murderer's head off. So they bring this guy out who locally raped a yak or something. And they're like, cut his head off. He's like, no. And they're like, cut his head off. He's like, no. And they're like, cut his head off. And he's like, okay. And he takes his sword and he walks over and puts the sword on the back of the guy's head. And then instead he moves it and flips like there's a poker in an iron thing, and he flips it up to the top floor. And it happens to flip like 50 feet up a level and land in a barrel of gunpowder. And again, Christopher Nolan understands Chekhov's rules. He knows how to be a good filmmaker. So he lands it in some gunpowder, which they had just shown the gunpowder scene. So, okay. Then there's like a 3-second break. So Ducard and him can have some dialogue. Nobody moves so they can talk for a second. It's a little frustrating. Then the fight breaks out. Now he instantly knocks Liam Neeson unconscious with one punch. Keep in mind. Literally, Liam Neeson goes unconscious instantly, like a quarter second later. And then there's a long fight with Ken Watanabe and the 50 ninjas, and there's all this shit going on. Meanwhile, there's explosion after explosion after explosion after explosion after explosion. It's a fucking wooden house in the top of a mountain. They show one barrel of fucking gunpowder. Fine, that blows up. Boom. Cool. 10 seconds after that, boom. Cool. Fighting. 10 seconds after that, boom. Like, this place is exploding like it is made of fucking backwater. Boom. Just keep there's monks and ninjas and shit flying fucking everywhere. Boom, it blows up. They get blown out the fucking window. Now they start sliding down that, like, if this sounds like a shitty movie, there's a reason. It is. They get blown out the window onto a cliff, sliding down a slope face towards the edge of a cliff. And so the building is coming down first, and Christian Bale picks up Liam Neeson in a fireman's carry. That's fine. Who is unconscious from getting knocked out from one punch. Keep in mind, before this, he had fought with Christian Bale for a half hour and bested him every time. And then at the end of the movie, they fought for an additional 20 minutes, and he basically bested him every. He was never able to beat Ra's al Ghul in single combat. But here, for the purpose of the script, because we needed him to get away from Liam Neeson, need him to be unconscious, but we need him to save his life. So for that reason, sure, boom, he's unconscious instantly. Okay, boom, fights, beats the other Ra's al Ghul, picks up Liam Neeson, throws him over his shoulder, is moving on. Boom, the building blows up, gets thrown out the window. They're sliding down the cliff face, and they slide down the cliff face, and Liam Neeson is going first. He's about to go over the cliff to his doom, and Bruce like catches up to him and takes one arm and plants it in the snow, and the other arm and grabs Liam Neeson as he goes off the edge of the cliff. Now, Liam Neeson is almost exactly my size, probably a little lighter. Liam Neeson is like 6'4", 210 pounds. Okay. So again, and this is a comic book movie, and Bruce Wayne's a small. So I'm going to let this one fucking go. But just for reference, no, this isn't happening either. So he manages to grab the cliff with this hand. He goes off the cliff with the other hand. And he catches Liam Neeson's entire weight as he's falling with one arm. And then he manages to curl him back to the cliff. Just like this. And again, fucking no. Also, on the way up, they showed literally the scenes on the way up were the following in this order. Watch carefully. This is important. Pick the blue flower. Reach the town on the way up the hill where he encounters an old man that he sees on the way down with Liam Neeson. He leaves him with him. Says, care for this man. Sees the village. After the village, he climbs up like 3 sheer cliff faces. And you can see these incredibly craggy rocks. And they actually show him climbing up these really sheer cliff faces, hands over hand. So it goes from the bottom of the hill, flowers, village, really high fucking cliff faces, monastery. Then on the way down, he goes from monastery and somehow gets back to the village with Liam Neeson on his shoulders. Which, fucking no. Anyhow.
And Marcus Smart's shoulder just looked like he popped his arm out of the socket there.
Really? I would have thought they were talking about fucking Bruce Wayne's shoulder popping out of the socket. Liam Neeson with one arm going off a cliff.
Yeah, so he headed to the locker room.
But Jesus Christ, like I really want to do like a video just like, you know, Christopher Nolan is an auteur. He's a modern filmmaking genius. I have an incredible amount of respect, but fuck, this movie's bad. Like just so many. I'm like, oh, no. Anyhow. I was surprisingly disappointed by my rewatching of Batman. Dark Knight is still incredible. Dark Knight Rises is fine. It's good. It's legitimately good. Yeah, Batman Begins. Oh, woof. There's some real fucking... It's a bridging vehicle. We had to order... It would be suspicious if we ordered one armored cow. So we ordered 10,000 twice. It was also for me just like... How did this make it through like the writer's room twice? Like how did someone write that line to multiple people? Like, yeah, that makes sense. Ordering 10,000 pieces of what?
Well, Eddie, I was supposed to go somewhere with the lovely Annabelle about 9 minutes ago. So I have received the "What are you doing?" text. So I'm going to depart. I absolutely will blame you.
Yeah, I was going to say blame me. That's what I'm here for. But seriously, anyone's a really good video producer, fuck, I want to make a movie about the first half of the Dark Knight of Batman Begins. I was just like, shit. Fuck. Like a one go, but I'm like 20 minutes into the movie. I'm like, that's like the 8th groan-inducing line out of this movie. When did this movie become terrible? It did not age well. Those 15 years did not go well.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm done now, I promise.
Well, I mean, I do think that we could probably pitch or put together a pretty good pitch for that movie dissecting Batman Begins just by showing them the last 10 minutes of you talking about it. Like, we can go deeper on these.
That was just the top of my head or something. Like, yeah, you flip it up real nice, like one of those everything wrong with videos. But, like, I don't want it to be quite that polemic. There's got to be a good way to do it or something to make it funny. But, like, ooh, boy. All right. I'm done.
Well,
I'll be quiet.
We appreciate the 12 people who are still tuned in, listening to us muse about Batman Begins, etc. We are on a back-to-back. We will be back tomorrow. I guess an unexpected back-to-back here. So we appreciate everybody who stuck with us. Shout out to David for his, hour on the show today. Eddie for popping in. And enjoy the games today, everybody. Game 1's always fun on this Sunday afternoon, and we're back tomorrow for 2 more game 1. So for Eddie, I'm Zach. Good luck today, everybody, and as always,
let's get these beans.